"Hey, what are you doing over there?" Logan's voice cut through the snowy silence like a whip. The girl jerked her head up, startled, her hand still inside the mailbox. Her eyes were wide, wild, reflecting both fear and something more piercing shame. She didn't answer. She didn't run. She just stared at him, hand frozen in place as if caught stealing, though there was nothing to take. I said. Logan stepped down from his porch, wrapping his coat tighter. "What the hell are you doing in my mailbox?" Still, no reply. Then, in a voice so soft it barely reached him over the wind, she said, "Looking for my letter." "Your what?" She pulled her hand out and held up a crumpled envelope. It was torn at one corner, the ink smudged from wet fingers and old tears. "My grandma sent it here, a long time ago. I thought maybe this time, it would come back." Logan blinked. "That's not how mail works, kid." The girl didn't move, her breath fogged in the air, her teeth chattering. She said the man in this house could help me. A strange shiver, not from the cold, ran down Logan's spine. He squinted, stepping closer. She was younger than he'd thought, 6, maybe 7. Her clothes weren't just worn, they were practically shredded. Her coat was more of a blanket stitched together. Her boots looked like they'd been found in a dumpster, and then he noticed it. A thick red scar running from her ear to her jaw. Fresh. Not an accident. Not weather. His voice dropped. "What happened to your face?" She hesitated, then answered with devastating clarity. "He said I talked too much." Logan's fists clenched. He looked back toward the house. Behind him, everything was polished, gleaming granite counters, Italian leather chairs. A fire roaring like some rich man's painting. And here in front of him, a child had just confessed abuse, on his lawn. On Christmas Eve, she suddenly stepped forward and shoved the letter into his hands. "Here," she said. "Give it back to her if she ever writes back." Logan looked down. The envelope read, "To Mr. Logan Pierce. From Grandma Ruth." His chest tightened. That name. Ruth. The housekeeper who had once run this place with quiet authority, who had comforted his wife through cancer treatments, who had left one day without goodbye. Logan hadn't asked why. He was too deep in grief, too busy hiding behind algorithms and stock prices. "She's dead, isn't she?" he asked. The girl's chin trembled. They didn't bury her right. No headstone, no song, just a hole. He staggered a step backward. "What's your name?" he asked, quieter now. "Anna. You live at the shelter?" "No," she said. "I escaped." Logan's heart kicked. "From where?" Anna didn't answer. She just turned and started walking down the driveway, into the swirling snow. He watched her small figure fading, her silhouette barely visible beneath the street lamp glow. "You can't just walk away in a blizzard," he shouted. "I've done worse," she replied, not even turning around. Logan jogged after her. "Wait. You can't just show up at someone's house and drop a letter like that." She stopped, spun around, and looked him dead in the eye. "She said if I ever got real lost, I should find you, that you owed her." "Owed her?" he echoed. "She saved your wife once. You never knew, did you?" Logan stared, lips parted. "She pulled her out of a car crash in 2004. Broke her ribs doing it. You sent flowers to the wrong address." He didn't remember that. He didn't know that. His entire throat went dry. "She told me if I ever got scared enough, you'd help." But maybe she was wrong. Anna turned and kept walking. "Wait." Logan called again, breath-catching. "Where are you going now?" "To the train tracks. Sometimes the boxcars stay warm if you hide behind the crates." Logan closed the gap between them in seconds. "Number, you're coming with me." She narrowed her eyes. "Why? You didn't even remember her name." That hit deeper than she knew. "Because," he said hoarsely, "I don't want to forget again." He reached out, not to grab her, but to offer his hand. Anna looked at it, then at his face. "I bite," she warned. Logan cracked a smile for the first time in months. "I'm vaccinated." She gave him the ghost of a grin, then placed her tiny, frozen hand in his. They walked silently toward the house. Inside, Logan guided her to the kitchen, pulled out a stool, and put a kettle on the stove. She sat, still as a stone, watching everything like a fox in unfamiliar woods. You allergic to anything, he asked. Only people, she said. He raised an eyebrow. Peanut butter's fine, she added. He spread it onto toast and slid it over. She inhaled it like she hadn't eaten in days. Why tonight? He asked. What? Why come tonight? Anna looked up, eyes far too old for her age. Because Christmas is when everyone pretends to care. I thought maybe you would too. Logan sat down across from her. His hands trembled slightly as he held the letter from Ruth. You were right, he said. I do care. She swallowed, eyes darting to his, then to the flames dancing in the fireplace, and for the first time, she whispered. I hope she was right. Outside, the snow thickened. Inside, something melted for both of them. If you felt something for this story, give it a like and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Who knows? Someone near you might be watching too. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. The kitchen clock ticked softly, each second punctuating the silence between them. Anna sat hunched over a steaming mug of cocoa, her hands cradling it like it was something sacred. Logan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the folded envelope that lay between them. Neither of them spoke for a while. I didn't think you'd actually let me in, Anna said at last, her voice small but clear. Logan exhaled through his nose. Neither did I. She glanced up, cautious. Is that bad? No, he said, after a pause. Just unexpected. Anna nodded, as if she'd heard that word before in too many wrong places. Logan walked over to the table and picked up the envelope. The paper was yellowed, edges curled, creased so many times it was soft like cloth. You said your grandmother wrote this? Anna nodded. She wrote you every year. After you disappeared. I didn't disappear, he murmured. I just stopped answering the world. She said that too. Logan turned the envelope over, running his thumb along the flap. The handwriting was unmistakable, elegant, deliberate. Ruth's handwriting. He hadn't seen it since the last note she left on the fridge, years ago. Groceries are restocked. I'm taking Sunday off. He hadn't realized that would be the last time he'd hear from her. He opened the envelope gently. The letter inside was just a single page, but it carried weight. He unfolded it slowly, and Ruth's voice rose from the paper as if she were still alive and speaking beside him. Dear Mr. Pierce, if you're reading this, it means my granddaughter found her way to you. I've tried everything else, called offices, wrote assistants, mailed you letters every Christmas. I don't know if you read any of them. I won't be here much longer. My body's tired, and this world's been hard. But my Anna, she's still got a fight left in her. I raised her right, best I could. She's got her mother's eyes and her father's fire. But she needs someone steady now, someone who can protect her when I no longer can. You once told my Louise she saved your wife's life. I figure you owe her a debt only a life can repay. I'm asking you to consider it, not for me, for Anna. If this letter never reaches you, I hope she never has to find out what hope tastes like when it dies. Logan lowered the letter. His throat tightened. For a moment, he said nothing. He didn't dare. Anna was watching him with an expression that was too guarded for someone so small. You read it? He nodded. You mad? He shook his head slowly. Number. Just sorry. For what? For not reading the first one she sent. Anna said nothing, but her fingers gripped the edge of the table harder. Logan moved toward the fireplace and threw another log in. Sparks leapt up, casting flickering light on the walls. Where have you been staying? He asked without turning. Anna shrugged. Different places, some shelters. A woman let me sleep in her laundry room once. He turned back. What about foster care? They tried. But some houses are worse than no house. That, he could believe. He'd heard the horror stories. But hearing it from her mouth, from a 6-year-old with a scar on her face and calluses on her palms, hit differently. Where's your backpack? Left it behind when I ran from the last place. Had a drawing in it. For Ruth. Logan sat down across from her. We'll get you another one. With better zippers? Anna squinted at him. Why are you being nice? I don't know yet, Logan admitted. She didn't seem satisfied with that answer. But she didn't argue. Either. After a few minutes, she said, "Are you rich?" Logan blinked. "What makes you ask that?" "You live in a house with 4 fireplaces and 3 fridges." I counted. A short laugh escaped him. "Yeah, I guess I'm rich." Anna sipped her cocoa. "Good. Maybe you can buy me a new grandma." The words stabbed him. She said it without bitterness, almost like a joke. But it wasn't a joke. Logan leaned forward. "Anna, do you want to stay here tonight?" She looked at him for a long time. Her expression, unreadable. "Will you lock your bedroom door?" "No," he said. "I'll leave it open." She nodded once. "Okay. I'll make up the guest room." "No," she said quickly, then softened. "I mean, can I sleep on the couch? Just for tonight? In front of the fire?" He smiled. "You got it." That, after she changed into one of his oversized t-shirts and curled into a fleece blanket, Logan sat on the opposite couch and just watched the flames. She spoke softly in the dark. "Do you miss your wife?" He hesitated. "Every day." Anna whispered, "I miss Ruth." He didn't say anything else, just nodded into the silence. Then, before her breathing slowed into sleep, she said one last thing. She said if I found you, it'd mean she wasn't wrong to believe in people. Logan closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, the house didn't feel so empty. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, casting a soft amber glow across the room. Logan woke in his armchair, neck sore, blanket half fallen to the floor. He blinked the sleep from his eyes and looked toward the couch. Anna was gone. His heart jumped. He sat up fast, eyes scanning the room. Then he heard the quiet creak of a cabinet in the kitchen. He stepped softly toward the sound, and there she was, standing on her tiptoes, trying to reach a tin of tea on the top shelf. "Morning," he said, voice still gravelly. Anna turned, startled. "Sorry. I didn't want to wake you. I saw the kettle and Ruth used to let me make tea in the mornings." Logan nodded slowly, stepping past her and grabbing the tin. "No apology needed. You're allowed to want something warm." He handed her the tea tin and poured water into the kettle. For a moment, they moved like a quiet rhythm. He prepped the mugs. She got the honey, neither speaking but somehow understanding each other. "Do you always sleep in that chair?" she asked. "Number usually in the bed. But I didn't want to leave you alone your first night here." She stared into her mug. "You didn't snore," Logan chuckled. "I take that as a compliment." Anna smiled, but her eyes didn't hold it for long. He noticed the way she clutched the mug with both hands, like it was a shield. "You don't have to stay here if you don't want to," he said carefully. "But if you do, we need to figure some things out." "Like what?" "Like school, clothes, and," he hesitated, "your legal guardianship. Right now, you're off the grid, and that's not safe." Anna's face hardened. "You gonna send me back to them?" "No," he said firmly. "But I also can't keep you hidden. If I'm going to protect you, I need to do it the right way." She nodded, slow and uncertain. "What's the right way?" "Let's start by finding out what happened to Ruth," Logan said, voice quiet. "I need to know where she was, and why no one told me she passed." Anna nodded again but didn't say anything more. By midday, Logan had cleared a guest room across from his, moved in clean sheets, and found one of his assistant's old tablets to give her. Anna didn't use it for games or cartoons. Instead, she opened the drawing app and started sketching. Later, while she drew on the couch, Logan made calls. He started with the hospital nearest Ruth's last known address. They had no record. Then the county office. Then social services. Most calls ended in voicemails or vague redirections. Finally, he dialed a number he hadn't called in years. Beverly Marks, his late wife's best friend and a retired lawyer. "Logan Pierce," she said, picking up with a sigh. "Either the world is ending or you're dying." "Which is it?" "Neither," he said. "But I need your help." He explained everything: Anna, the letter, Ruth. By the end, Beverly was quiet. "I remember Ruth," she said softly. "She had more backbone than half the attorneys I trained. She deserved better." "She did," Beverly agreed. "Send me the letter. I'll pull what strings I can. But Logan, this is big. If you want custody, or any kind of guardianship, You'll need to face the state. That means paperwork, evaluations, background checks. I don't care, he said. I just don't want her to fall through the cracks like Ruth did. There was a pause. You're serious. I'm serious, Beverly sighed. Then buckle up. That night, Anna was quieter than usual. She picked at her dinner a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup and asked, "Did you ever have kids?" Logan's throat tightened. "Number. We tried. But it didn't work out." She tilted her head. "Because your wife died?" "Yes," he said. "She got sick before we could finish the adoption process." Anna nodded, like she understood more than a child her age should. "Did it hurt?" "What?" "Losing her." Logan hesitated, then said, "Every day." Anna didn't press. She looked into her soup. Ruth said losing someone was like a ghost, living in your fireplace. Always there, even when you stop noticing. Logan looked at the fireplace beside them. The embers glowed faintly. She was right. W. After dinner, Anna padded toward the hallway, stopping at the guest room. Logan watched her pause. "Hey," she said, turning. "Thanks for not locking your door." "I meant it." She nodded. "I locked mine, though." He smiled. "That's okay. You can unlock it when you're ready." As the door clicked shut behind her, Logan stood alone in the hallway, letter still folded in his pocket. That night, before bed, he opened a drawer in his study, the one that held memories he hadn't touched in years. There was a photo of Ruth and his wife at the Christmas party of 2006, both laughing, arms around each other. He stared at the photo, then at the cold embers in the fireplace. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have come looking sooner." A gust of wind howled outside, but inside, the house felt just a little warmer. In the room across the hall, Anna slept curled on her side, a sketch resting on the floor beside her bed. It was of 3 people, a tall man, a kind woman, and a little girl in a yellow dress, holding their hands. She had drawn them smiling, standing in front of a mailbox. The next morning brought a sky smeared with dull gray, clouds thick and unmoving. The snow hadn't stopped, only softened, falling now in slow spirals like the world itself was holding its breath. Logan stood at the kitchen window, phone pressed to his ear. He tapped his fingers anxiously against the counter as the call rang for the 3rd time. "Come on, Beverly." Anna shuffled in wearing the same oversized t-shirt she'd slept in, dragging her feet and rubbing her eyes. She looked smaller in the daylight, more fragile, but when she saw Logan watching her, she straightened slightly, still learning what parts of herself needed to be hidden. "There's cereal in the pantry," he said gently, "or I can make eggs. Do you have toaster waffles?" He blinked, then smiled. "Actually, yeah, somewhere in the back. Ruth used to burn 'em on purpose," Anna said, climbing onto a stool. Said crunchy edges built character. Logan laughed softly. "I'll do my best." Just as the waffles popped, Beverly finally answered. "Logan, I've been on hold with county records for 30 minutes. This is not a good system." Tell me you found something," he said. "I found 2 things. 1, Ruth Evans died in a public hospital in New Haven 8 months ago. No funeral, no obituary. Just listed as a Jane Doe for 2 days before someone confirmed her identity. God. 2, she filed 3 separate letters with family services before she died, each one naming you as her chosen guardian for Anna in the event of her death." Logan's stomach dropped. "Why wasn't I contacted?" Beverly sighed. "Because the letters weren't processed. They were sitting in a file marked pending verification. Bureaucratic negligence. Or worse. So no one even tried to find me?" And, to make matters worse, a private foster agency placed Anna with a temporary home weeks after Ruth passed. That placement ended when Anna ran away. He closed his eyes. "How long was she there?" "Too long." Logan glanced at Anna, who was now sitting at the counter, tapping her fork against her plate in a quiet rhythm. He covered the phone. "Everything okay?" She nodded but didn't look up. "Waffles taste better when you don't eat them alone." He forced a smile and returned to the call. "What's our next move?" "You'll need to file an emergency guardianship petition. I can handle the paperwork. But it means dealing with the Department of Child Services directly. And Logan." "What?" "They're going to push back. Hard. He stared out the window at the snow, heart heavy. Let them. After breakfast, Anna disappeared into the guest room with her sketchpad. Logan made a fresh pot of coffee and sat at the dining table, reading over the scanned documents Beverly had emailed Ruth's signed letters, her final medical report, the social worker's half-completed assessment. He felt it all. The weight. The neglect. The failure. Midday, he walked down the hall to check on Anna. The door was open just a crack. He knocked gently. She didn't answer, but he pushed it open slowly and peeked in. Anna sat on the bed, knees tucked to her chest, sketchpad open on her lap. But she wasn't drawing. She was crying. He stepped in. Anna. She looked up quickly and wiped her face with the sleeve of her shirt. I'm fine. You're not, he said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. She didn't answer. Was it the phone call? Did you hear something? Number. Then what? Anna sniffled. It's stupid. Try me. She hesitated. You're nice now. But everyone's nice at first. Then they change. Then they give me away again. Logan felt like the floor was tilting. He wanted to argue. To say he was different. But he knew better than to make promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he said, That's not stupid. That's honest and brave. She looked at him with wet eyes. You gonna give me away too? No, he said quietly. Not if I have anything to say about it. Anna stared at him, searching for cracks in his voice. Ruth said people forget kids like me. Logan swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong. But she also said something else. What? She said I owed her a debt only a life could repay. Anna blinked. You think that's me? I think that's you. A pause. Then you better not screw it up. She said, with just enough sarcasm to make him smile. Later that evening, as Logan sat in the study filling out Beverly's paperwork, Anna came in and handed him another drawing. It was a house, not a mansion, not his real home, just a small, cozy house with smoke coming from the chimney. In the window, two stick figures waved. One was tall, the other short. Both smiling. He looked at the drawing, then at Anna. This is us? She shrugged. Could be. Someday. Logan didn't answer. Instead, he placed the drawing inside the envelope Ruth had sent. Like a seal. Outside, the snow began falling harder again. The wind whistled past the windows, a ghost reminding him of everything left unfinished. But inside, the fireplace burned steady. And in its light, hope didn't feel quite so foolish anymore. 2 days after Christmas, the snow finally stopped. The world outside looked like it had been frozen in place. Every tree branch crystallized, every rooftop buried under thick white frosting. But inside Logan's estate, something had begun to thaw. Anna was in the living room, curled up on the couch with a blanket draped over her shoulders, watching an old holiday cartoon on mute. She hadn't spoken much that morning. The drawing tablet sat beside her untouched. Logan was in the kitchen, poring over documents Beverly had overnighted via courier guardianship forms, affidavits, notarized letters from Ruth that had miraculously surfaced in the county's storage archives. He was reading through page 12 of an evaluation checklist when the intercom on the gate buzzed sharply. He looked up, surprised. No one visited him without calling first. He walked to the wall panel and pressed the button. Yes? A voice crackled through, low and unfamiliar. Delivery for Mr. Logan Pierce. Legal documents. Signature required. Logan frowned. From whom? The man paused. State Department of Child Services. Logan's pulse quickened. Let him in, he said, pressing the gate release. Minutes later, a dark blue sedan rolled up the drive, stopping just outside the front door. A tall man in a long wool coat stepped out, briefcase in hand, and climbed the steps with calm, measured steps. Logan opened the door before he could knock. Logan Pierce? Yes. I'm Raymond Dell. I'm with the Department of Child Services. May I come in? Logan hesitated only a moment before stepping aside. She's in the living room. I assumed she might be, Dell replied. But I'd like to speak with you first. He followed Logan into the study. Dell didn't sit. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thin folder. "We received a call," Dell said calmly, "from a private citizen, Beverly Marks, alerting us to an unreported placement of a minor, currently in your custody." "I wouldn't call it a placement. She showed up at my door on Christmas Eve." Dell nodded. "Unorthodox, certainly, but the law still applies." Logan crossed his arms. "She ran away from a system that let her get hurt. I'm not sending her back." "No one's asking you to yet," Dell said, "but we have protocols, and Anna's case is complex." "She has no one," Logan said. "Her grandmother named me." "That should count for something." "It does," Dell replied, "but she's a minor. You're not family, and your home hasn't been evaluated for child placement. I filed a petition for emergency guardianship." "Good. That buys you time, but not immunity. I need to interview Anna." Logan stiffened. "She's been through enough. And I'm not here to traumatize her," Dell said. "But I need to hear from her, even if it's just a few words." Logan led him to the living room, where Anna looked up from the couch as the stranger entered. "Anna," Logan said gently, "this is Mr. Dell. He's from the state. He just wants to ask a few questions." Anna didn't move, her eyes narrowed. "You gonna take me?" Dell crouched so they were eye level. "No, sweetheart. I'm here to listen. That's all." She didn't reply. "I read your grandma's letters," Dell continued. "Ruth, she sounded like someone who really loved you." Anna looked down at her hands. She was the only one who did. "Do you feel safe here, with Mr. Pierce?" She looked at Logan, then back at Dell. "He didn't lock his door. He let me sleep by the fire." Dell nodded thoughtfully. "Has anyone hurt you here?" "Number. Has anyone made you feel scared?" "Number. Do you want to stay here?" A pause. Anna's voice came quiet and firm. "Yes." Dell straightened. "That's enough for now." He turned to Logan. "I'll file an initial report that favors temporary placement, pending full review. But you need to get a home study done. Background check, psych eval, all of it." Logan nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes." Dell packed up his folder. Before he left, he looked once more at Anna. "You're brave, kid." She didn't answer, but after he left, she said softly, "I've heard that before. Doesn't make it easier." That night, Logan sat at the edge of the fireplace, adding logs while Anna drew again. "What are you working on?" he asked. She held up a sketch, a tall man and a girl standing back to back, surrounded by tall gray buildings. Above them, a single sun peeked through the clouds. "That us?" She nodded. "I like that we're standing back to back," he said. "Strong," she shrugged. "Means we watch for each other. In case something bad's coming." Logan smiled. "I'll always have your back." Anna didn't respond. But after a while, she scooted closer and leaned her head against his shoulder. He didn't move. He let the fire burn and the silence settle. For the first time in years, the house felt lived in. And for the first time in her life, Anna looked like she believed someone might actually stay. 3 days later, Logan found himself standing in front of a government building that looked as though it had given up hope sometime around 1978. The Department of Child Services headquarters in downtown Hartford was a concrete block of silence and bureaucracy, its hallways painted in the kind of yellow that used to be white. The elevator creaked. The chairs in the waiting room squeaked. Everything felt cold, sterile, designed to remind you that no one was home here. Only paper. Beverly met him in the lobby, dressed in a navy coat and sharp heels that clicked like gavel strikes. "They'll try to poke holes," she said, handing him a folder thick with documentation. Financials, tax history. Even that minor infraction from 2004. "That was a parking ticket," Logan said. "In this system, a parking ticket can be recast as a pattern of disregard for civic responsibility." Logan exhaled. "Let's get it over with." They walked together to room 416. A plain door, a plain brass plaque. Inside waited 2 state officials, a woman in her 50s with salt and pepper hair and unreadable eyes, and a younger man with thick glasses who looked like he typed faster than he talked. "Mr. Pierce," the woman greeted. I'm Dana Colson. This is Eric Walker. We're overseeing Anna's case. Logan nodded. Beverly sat beside him like a coiled spring. Colson opened a folder. You're aware of the circumstances under which Anna arrived at your residence? She came to my door on Christmas Eve. Her grandmother left her in my care. Do you have documentation of that? Yes, Beverly said, sliding over copies of Ruth's signed letters and affidavits. You'll find notarized confirmation as well as emergency placement petitions in progress. Walker skimmed the pages, nodding slowly. You're not a relative, Mr. Pierce. Number. You have no previous experience raising children? No, Logan admitted, but I'm learning. Colson leaned forward. Do you understand the responsibility you're asking to take on? Anna is not just a child. She's a vulnerable minor with trauma. She's run from multiple placements. There are questions about her behavior, her ability to adjust. She's 6 years old, Logan interrupted. She doesn't need analysis. She needs someone who won't give her away when she doesn't smile on command. Colson's expression didn't change. And if you lose patience? If her trauma manifests in ways you can't control? Logan took a breath. Then I'll get help. Therapy, tutors, support, whatever it takes. Walker leaned in. Mr. Pierce, you're a billionaire. A man of your means could offer financial support to dozens of foster children. Why this one? Why Anna? The room went quiet. Logan stared at him. Because she knocked on my door. A beat. Because her grandmother saved my wife's life. And because no one else showed up for her. So I will. There was silence. Then Beverly cleared her throat. If you'd like references, I have a list of medical professionals, employees, and even clergy who can attest to Mr. Pierce's integrity. Colson raised a hand. We'll review the paperwork. For now, Anna stays with you under provisional care. A social worker will be assigned. Weekly visits, no exceptions. Logan nodded. Understood. On the ride home, Beverly looked at him. You did well. I felt like I was begging. You were, she said. That's what love looks like sometimes. Back at the house, Anna sat at the kitchen counter, sipping hot chocolate with too many marshmallows. She looked up as Logan entered. You're back, she said flatly. I told you I'd come back. I know, but it's still nice to see it's true. He smiled and walked to the cupboard. You hungry? She shrugged. I made toast. It caught fire. A little. No. Logan peeked into the toaster and raised an eyebrow. Well, you did say Ruth liked it crunchy. She grinned. Later that evening, as the sky turned dark and a new snow began to fall, Logan and Anna sat on the floor beside the fire. Between them lay a stack of books. One of them was Ruth's old copy of The Secret Garden, pages yellowed, corners bent from use. Logan read aloud, his voice slow and calm. Anna curled under a blanket, half listening, half dozing. As he turned the page, she whispered, Did they believe you? Mostly, he said. She yawned. What if they change their mind? Logan looked at her. Then I'll fight harder, even if I mess up? Especially then. Anna was quiet a moment. You know, most people only want the easy kids. You're not easy, he said gently, but you're worth it. She didn't reply, but her hand slid out from under the blanket and took hold of his. Small. Cold. Certain. Outside, the snow kept falling, but inside, something else was taking root, quiet and slow, like a seed under frost. A beginning. A promise. A fragile kind of peace. And for the first time in years, Logan felt like the house he'd built might finally become a home. 3 days later, the social worker arrived. Her name was Melanie Harris, mid-40s, straight-backed, no nonsense, with a clipboard in one hand and a polite, tired smile that hinted at too many years navigating red tape. Logan greeted her at the front door, offering coffee she declined, and led her into the living room where Anna was curled up under a blanket with a book. Melanie crouched to her level. Hi, Anna. I'm Melanie. Can we talk for a few minutes? Anna nodded without much expression. She was learning not to trust smiles too quickly. Alone, if that's all right? Melanie asked, glancing at Logan. He hesitated, then turned to Anna. You okay with that? Anna shrugged. It's fine. He left the room reluctantly and waited in the kitchen. Every sound amplified, papers shifting, chairs creaking, the soft rhythm of voices too low to make out. He tried not to pace but found himself tracing the same 3 steps over the tile, his hands tight in his pockets. After 20 minutes, Melanie appeared at the kitchen doorway. "She's sharp," she said simply. "Guarded, but sharp." Logan raised an eyebrow. "That a good thing?" "It means she's been through more than she should have and survived it. But she's watching you, looking for cracks." "I figured." Melanie flipped a page on her clipboard. "I'll be honest, Mr. Pierce. On paper, you're not the ideal candidate. Because I'm not a parent? Because you're a wealthy man with a history of privacy, no domestic experience, and a house the state would call improperly child-proofed." Logan smiled faintly. "You mean the marble staircase and the glass sculptures? That would be a start," Melanie said dryly. "But," he waited, "but she told me this morning that your house is the first place she's ever slept without shoes on." Logan blinked. "She said it like it was a luxury," Melanie added. "That kind of detail sticks. What does that mean for us?" "It means I'll recommend continued provisional placement, but I need to schedule weekly visits, submit progress reports, and confirm your home meets all safety standards. You'll need a therapist on record, and Anna will need to be enrolled in school within the next 10 days. I'll make it happen." Melanie scribbled a note. "Also," she said something else. Logan looked up. She said, "If he sends me away, I'll understand. But I don't think he will." His chest tightened. Melanie stood. "She doesn't need perfection. She needs someone to stay." After she left, Logan returned to the living room where Anna was still on the couch, thumbing through pages. "She said I was guarded, huh?" Anna asked without looking up. "She also said you're sharp," he replied. Anna smirked. "Told you I wasn't easy. That's never been the point." Later that afternoon, as snow started falling again, Logan's phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. Out of habit, he nearly declined it, but something nudged him to answer. "Mr. Pierce?" "Yes. This is Officer Karen Delgado with the New Haven Police Department. I'm calling about a recent request you submitted regarding the circumstances of Ruth Evans's death." Logan straightened. "Yes? There's something you need to know. Our records show that Ruth came to the ER with signs of head trauma. The cause of death was listed as a cerebral hemorrhage, but there's a note in her file. A nurse flagged concern about the injury not matching her fall story." Logan's pulse quickened. "You're saying it might not have been an accident?" "I'm saying the nurse suspected foul play. But the case was never investigated further. She didn't have next of kin listed. No one pressed." "She had me," Logan said quietly. "I understand," Delgado said. "I've reopened the case on a preliminary basis. We may need to speak with Anna." Logan's voice turned firm. "She's 6. I understand. We won't approach her directly without your consent." He ended the call with his hands shaking slightly. That night, he didn't say anything to Anna. Not yet. But he watched her more closely. The way she flinched when someone knocked on the door. The way she avoided eye contact when adults raised their voices on television. Something wasn't right. Ruth had been trying to protect her from more than just the system. She'd been running from someone. And now that someone might be watching again, that evening, as Logan stepped out to grab firewood from the shed, he saw it. Tire tracks in the snow. Fresh, and too close to the gate. No delivery had been scheduled. No one had buzzed. His spine stiffened. He walked the perimeter, checked the security footage. One frame. A dark SUV idling near the edge of the property, then reversing away. He didn't tell Anna. Not yet. But that night, he didn't sleep in his bed. He slept on the couch, near the front door, with the fire burning low and a baseball bat leaned against the wall. The morning came in gray and heavy. The snowfall had stopped sometime before dawn, but the sky still wore its weight like a secret. Logan brewed coffee with stiff fingers and eyes that hadn't closed all night. The bat still leaned beside the door, its silent presence now a warning to whatever ghost had come too close. Anna padded into the kitchen in her slippers. yawning and rubbing her eyes. She climbed onto the stool and watched him pour hot cocoa into her mug without saying a word. "You didn't sleep," she said, voice quiet. "Number. Was it nightmares?" "Something like that." She nodded, like she understood. "I used to think if I stayed awake, the bad dreams couldn't catch me." "Did it work?" "Sometimes." He passed her the cocoa and forced a smile. "Thanks for the tip." After breakfast, he called Beverly. He told her everything: the police call, the reopened case, the tire tracks in the snow. "You think someone's watching the house?" she asked. "I know it. Then you need security. Real security, not just cameras and a bat." "I can handle it." "Logan," she said, voice firm. "You're not just protecting your home anymore. You're protecting her. Hire professionals. Today." By noon, 2 security contractors were walking the property, installing motion sensors and replacing the outdated cameras with thermal imaging units. Logan paced the foyer, his nerves taut. Anna watched the men work from the window, arms folded. "Are they here for me?" she asked. "They're here for both of us." She frowned. "Because of Ruth?" He hesitated. "Yeah." She nodded. "I think someone used to come to our apartment. After dark, Ruth would pretend it was the wind, but I heard her check the locks 5 times. Logan's gut twisted. That afternoon, he drove into the city for a meeting with Officer Delgado at the New Haven precinct. The station buzzed with cold efficiency radios murmuring, phones ringing, cops moving from one crisis to another. Delgado met him in a small interview room with a steel table and chairs that felt colder than the snow outside. "We pulled surveillance from the hospital parking lot the night Ruth came in," she said. "There's a man in a hoodie, carrying her in. He leaves the moment staff rush over. Never gives his name." "Any idea who he was?" "Not yet, but we're cross-referencing facial recognition. That takes time." She slid a file across the table. "We also found something else. Ruth filed a complaint with Child Protective Services 6 weeks before she died. Said she was being harassed, threatened. By who?" Delgado opened the file to a photocopy of a handwritten note. "You're running out of time. We know where she is. No signature, no return address. Just fear scribbled on lined paper." "She gave this to her caseworker," Delgado said. "But the case was never escalated." Logan clenched his fists. "They ignored her." "Yes, and someone wanted her silenced." He looked up. "So this wasn't an accident?" "No," Delgado said. "I don't believe it was." When he returned home, the sun had started its descent behind the trees, casting the snow in a faint amber glow. Anna met him at the door. "You okay?" she asked. He forced a smile. "Getting there." She held something behind her back. "I made you something." She handed him a drawing, a crude map of the house, with little red X's marking spots. "What's this?" "Places you forgot to check last night," she said. "For monsters." He laughed, but his chest ached. "You're one tough kid." "I had to be." They spent the evening putting together furniture for the guest room closest to his. Anna chose it herself, saying she liked being able to hear the fire crackle through the wall. Logan installed a nightlight shaped like a fox and promised her it would never go out. But that night, as snow fell again like ash, something broke the quiet. A knock. Not at the front door. At the back. Logan moved silently through the hall, bat in one hand, the other flipping on exterior lights. No one there. Only a single boot print in the snow fresh. Alone. Too large to be Anna's. Too recent to be a passerby. He checked the cameras. The motion sensors. Nothing had triggered. The intruder had been careful. And close. He returned to the living room and looked at the map Anna had drawn. One red X sat directly above the back door. He shivered. She'd known. He checked the locks 3 times that night. Then a 4th. Then a 5th. He didn't sleep. He watched the snow and waited for the ghost to show its face. 2 days passed in uneasy silence. The snow returned. Heavier this time. Burying the roads in slush and slowing the city's heartbeat to a crawl. Logan had beefed up the estate's security, installed coded locks on every entrance, and even hired a discreet overnight watchman to patrol the perimeter. But no further knocks came. No prints. Just quiet. And the quiet made everything worse. Anna had taken to drawing maps again, every room in the house, every window and door. She said it helped her feel in control. Logan let her. He didn't tell her about the print by the back door. He didn't tell her the cameras had caught a flicker of movement in the trees that night, just a silhouette between the pines, there and gone in a heartbeat. On the third day, Beverly called. "I did some digging," she said. "Ruth's last landlord filed an eviction notice 6 months before her death." That tracks," Logan muttered. "She told me she couldn't afford the heat anymore. But here's what's strange, her building's new owner. A shell corporation. No public-facing name. No address. Just a P.O. box in Manhattan." Logan's eyes narrowed. "That feels deliberate. I also checked the name on that foster home Anna ran from. And the family has 3 complaints filed against them. 2 for verbal abuse. 1 for unexplained bruises on a child. All sealed. Never investigated." Logan's hand gripped the phone harder. "How many kids?" 5, in a 2-bedroom house. He cursed under his breath. "Someone's profiting from pain." "That's the system," Beverly said bitterly. "But this feels more targeted. More like someone wanted Ruth gone. Wanted Anna hidden. Or worse." That evening, Logan walked into Anna's room with a pizza box and 2 sodas. She was seated on the floor, sketching again, the blanket wrapped around her like armor. "Dinner," he said. She looked up and smiled weakly. "Do rich people eat pizza?" "We do when we're smart." They sat cross-legged on the floor, eating in silence for a while, the fire crackling nearby. Then she asked, "Why do you look tired?" "I've been thinking." "About what?" "About Ruth. About what she was trying to protect you from." Anna's hand froze over her crust. She didn't like people asking questions. "I'm not people." She swallowed. "There was a man. Used to come at night." Did Ruth know him?" "I think so. But she never let him in. She'd turn off the lights and pretend we weren't home. Sometimes she'd cry after. Did he ever talk to you?" "Number. But one time he left a note in the mailbox. She burned it. Said it was poison." Logan leaned closer. "What did he look like?" "Big. Hooded." His voice was low, like a growl. A chill ran down Logan's spine. Anna picked at her pizza. "One night she said if anything ever happened, I had to find you, that you'd understand, that you'd know what to do." "I'm trying," he said quietly. That night, Logan stayed up reading every article he could find about Ruth's building. The owner had purchased 5 properties in the same rundown block, each now listed as condemned or sold off to unknown buyers. He felt it in his gut. Someone was cleaning up loose ends. The next day, Logan drove to New Haven alone. Anna stayed behind with one of the estate's housekeepers, who'd turned out to be unexpectedly warm and good with kids. The drive was long and slick, ice lining the streets like mirrors waiting to crack. He stopped at Ruth's old apartment building, an empty shell now, windows boarded, graffiti tagging the side walls. The front door was padlocked, but Logan circled the building and found a back entrance busted open. Inside, it smelled like mildew and cold metal. The walls were stained, the floors warped, but he walked through it slowly, imagining Ruth's footsteps, her voice, Anna's laughter. A home once, however fragile. He reached what must have been their apartment. The door hung open, the number barely legible. Inside, the space was hollow. A mattress on the floor. A broken table. On the wall, faint markings. A child's height measurements. Scribbled in pen, the last mark read, 5.5 Anna. With a heart drawn beside it, Logan reached into his coat pocket and took out his phone. He snapped a photo. Then something creaked behind him. He turned sharply. Nothing there. But he wasn't alone. He stepped out of the apartment fast, his instincts on high alert. The hallway was empty, but there was the smell of cigarettes, lingering, fresh. Outside, he saw it. Tire tracks again. Deep, pointed, still wet. Whoever had been inside had left only moments before. Logan drove straight to the police station and met Delgado in the parking lot. "They're following me," he said. Delgado nodded grimly. "Then we're getting close." She handed him a folder. Facial recognition pinged the man from the hospital. "His name is Marcus Tilden, former security contractor." tied to several private agencies that specialize in off-the-books repossessions. What does that mean? It means people hire him when they want something taken or someone. Logan's stomach sank. Who's paying him? Still tracing the money. But Logan, we think he may have been hired by someone inside the system. Logan stared at her. You think he's still looking for Anna? Delgado didn't answer. She didn't have to. That night, back home, Logan didn't sleep. He checked every door, every window, every shadow, because the ghosts weren't just memories now. They were men, with names, and possibly keys. The next morning, Anna found Logan hunched over the dining room table with papers spread in front of him. Maps, reports, printouts of financial records, grainy security footage stills, all tangled together with scribbled notes and red pen marks. He didn't hear her come in. She stood at the doorway, silent, watching. Her voice, when it came, was cautious. Did you find something? Logan looked up, startled, then nodded slowly. Maybe. She walked over and climbed into the chair beside him. Is that the man from the hospital? He tapped one of the photos. A blurred image of a broad-shouldered man in a hoodie, exiting the ER's sliding glass doors without looking back. That's him. His name's Marcus Tilden. Do you know him? Not yet, but I know what he's done. Anna looked down at the papers. Ruth didn't like him. She said he wasn't real. Logan tilted his head. What do you mean? She said he worked for people who didn't exist. Like shadows with money, people who erase things. Logan absorbed that quietly. She wasn't wrong. Just then, his phone buzzed. A text from Beverly. You need to see this. Check your email. Urgent. He opened his laptop, clicked into the secure folder she'd sent, and stared at the file, an employment roster from a now-defunct private security firm called Gray Pike. It listed Marcus Tilden as a field operative from 2013 to 2019. But what caught Logan's attention was the signature at the bottom of the page, Richard Lawford, a name he hadn't heard in over 15 years. He sat back in his chair, breath knocked from his lungs. Anna noticed. Who's that? Someone I used to work with, Logan said. A long time ago. Before I started the tech company, we did private contracts, data security, some defense jobs. Nothing illegal. But it danced close to the line. Did you like him? No, Logan said flatly. He was smart, charming, but too comfortable with secrets, the kind that hurt people. He pulled out an old photo from a file drawer, 3 men shaking hands outside a building in San Jose. Himself, a younger version of Richard Lawford, and another partner. He handed it to Anna. That's him, she said quietly. She pointed to Lawford. I saw him once. Logan froze. Where? A car outside Ruth's apartment. He came to the door, but Ruth didn't answer. I was watching from the window. He looked angry. Logan felt the pieces sliding into place, slow, grinding, dangerous. Why would Richard be tied to a security firm connected to Ruth? Beverly called again. This time, her voice was tight. Logan, Lawford's company has gone fully dark. No records since 2021. I traced one of their shell accounts. They've funneled money into child placement agencies all over Connecticut, including Anna's last foster home. His blood ran cold. So they weren't just neglectful. They were placed. Intentionally. Probably to keep Anna off the radar. Or worse, accessible. Logan stood and looked out the window at the snow-covered yard. We need to expose them. I'm already working with Delgado. But Logan, this goes high. Political ties. Campaign donors. If you push this too fast, they'll bury you. Then I'll be loud enough they can't. That afternoon, he met with Delgado again. This time in an unmarked vehicle parked near City Hall. She passed him a sealed envelope. Inside are transcripts from a whistleblower who worked at Gray Pike. He said Marcus Tilden's last known assignment was family disruption, their term for separating at-risk children from non-compliant guardians. Like Ruth, Delgado nodded. And they were contracted by a development group buying up low-income properties. When residents resisted, Things happened. Logan's hands curled into fists. So this wasn't random. This was engineered. Yes. And Anna was supposed to disappear into the system. But Ruth stopped that. Delgado added, until they stopped her. Back at the estate, Logan set up a meeting with a journalist friend from his past, a woman named Carla, who had exposed corporate tax evasion in the early 2000s and hadn't lost her edge. Whatever you have, she said over the phone, if it's real, I'll run it, but it better be airtight. I'll give you names, records, photos, payments, everything, and I'll go on the record. That'll make you a target. I already am. That night, Anna was quiet during dinner. Too quiet. You okay? Logan asked. She poked at her food. If they're coming for me, will you send me away? Logan reached across the table and gently touched her hand. No, Anna. I'd let this whole house burn down before I let anyone take you. Her eyes welled with tears. Even if I make things hard? You're not hard. You're real. That's different. She looked at him like she didn't believe it yet but wanted to. As the wind howled outside and the trees swayed against the frostbitten glass, Logan sat on the floor beside the fireplace and listened to Anna read aloud from a picture book. Her voice wavered but held firm. It was the first time she read something out loud without stopping. Progress. That night, Logan loaded a backup of every file, photo, and interview onto 3 encrypted flash drives. He left one in a safe, one with Beverly, and one in a sealed envelope addressed to Carla, because if anything happened to him, Anna's story would not go quiet. It would roar. Snow had begun to melt by the time the story broke. Early Monday morning, headlines erupted across local news sites like a match to dry tinder. Tech billionaire exposes alleged child placement corruption. Systemic abuse tied to private security firm, and the one that made Logan pause mid-step. She was meant to disappear, but she knocked on the right door. Carla's article dropped at 7:02 a.m. By 8 o'clock, Logan's phone had already lit up with dozens of missed calls, reporters, advocacy groups, even an apologetic message from the governor's office requesting a conversation. He ignored most of them. Instead, he stood in the kitchen, pouring cereal for Anna, who sat cross-legged on the counter, still in her pajamas. You're famous, she said, showing him his photo on a news app. They used the one where your hair looks extra floofy. He laughed despite himself. Great, just what I needed. Anna grew quiet, then asked, does this mean they're going to stop looking for me? Logan hesitated. Maybe not right away. But now, if they try, everyone will be watching. That seemed to satisfy her. She dipped her spoon into the bowl, then looked up. You're not scared? I'm always scared, Logan said. But scared doesn't mean we stop. Later that morning, Beverly arrived, coat dusted in melting snow, holding a thick manila envelope. Her expression was both triumphant and weary. You did it, she said, setting the envelope on the kitchen table. You blew the whole thing wide open. Logan opened the envelope. Inside were letters of support, legal affidavits, even a preliminary subpoena list from Delgado's team. The state is opening a formal inquiry into the Department of Child Services, Beverly said. They're pulling financial records, property transfers, everything. Huh. Logan flipped through the pages, noting signatures from former employees, neighbors, and even one of Anna's old schoolteachers. Each testimony added a crack to the foundation of the system that had nearly swallowed her. I don't know how to feel, he murmured. Start with furious. Then let it turn into resolve. At noon, a protest formed outside the Hartford Civic Center. Parents, foster youth, social workers, even ordinary citizens, many holding up signs with Anna's name, or simply the word, believe. Logan didn't attend. He stayed home, watching the live footage on television, Anna beside him, her hand wrapped around his. She didn't speak much, but he could see her chest rise and fall a little more easily. She felt it too, the weight shifting. That afternoon, Delgado called. Her voice was tight. We caught a break. Tilden's been spotted. Where? Cleveland. He boarded a bus under an alias, heading west. We're working with the FBI now. Logan's throat tightened. Does he know about the leak? Almost certainly. Which means he might act reckless. Watch your back. Logan's eyes moved toward the front window. I will. After the call, he installed another camera, this one inside the front entry, aimed at the main hallway. He didn't want surprises. Not anymore. That evening, Anna was drawing again at the kitchen island, but this time, the map wasn't of the house, it was of the world. See? She said, pointing to different places. If we had to run, we could go to Maine. Or Oregon. Or Iceland. I heard nobody messes with kids in Iceland. Logan leaned over. If we had to run, we'd go together. But I think we'll be okay now. Promise. He hesitated. Then nodded. Promise. Oh. That night, as the fire crackled and the wind settled, Logan sat in the den flipping through the old photo of himself, Lawford, and the unnamed third partner. His eyes lingered on Lawford's smirk, self-assured, guarded. The kind of man who didn't mind if the world burned, as long as he controlled the match. He thought about the money, the politics, the people lost in the margins. Ruth, the other kids. There had to be more. He opened his laptop and began writing a public letter, a statement to follow the article, addressed not to the press or the public, but directly to the children who had been lost. To the ones who didn't have a billionaire waiting on the other side of a mailbox. You were never invisible, he typed. You were just unheard. That ends now. Halfway through the letter, Anna padded into the room, wrapped in her blanket. You're still working? She asked. Just a little. She sat beside him on the couch, leaned her head against his shoulder. I had a dream, she said sleepily. That we had a treehouse, and no one could reach us up there, not even the bad guys. Logan smiled. That sounds perfect. She yawned. Can we build one? Absolutely. As she drifted off, Logan closed the laptop and looked out into the snow-covered yard, picturing the treehouse, the rope ladder, the hidden world where kids were just kids and men like Tilden never got close. The story wasn't over, but they had claimed a page of it, and this time, they weren't writing it in fear. They were writing it in fire. 2 days after the article broke, the silence was shattered. It came in the form of a car, sleek, unmarked, black as ink, idling outside the estate's front gate just before dawn. The motion sensors tripped, flooding the driveway with white light, and Logan was already awake, standing in the dark hallway with a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. He didn't need confirmation. He knew who it was, or at least, who sent them. He moved quietly through the house, pausing by Anna's door. She was still asleep, curled tightly, her drawing pad on the floor beside her bed. He stood there for a long second, then turned away. At the front door, the camera feed showed a man in a dark coat stepping out of the car. Sunglasses, even in the early light. His face was angular, confident, cold. Logan opened the door but didn't step out. You're trespassing, he said flatly. The man offered a small, practiced smile. Mr. Pierce. I come in peace. I doubt that. The man's hand moved toward his coat slowly, deliberately. Logan tensed, but he only pulled out a sealed envelope. A message, he said, from an old associate, Richard Lawford. Logan didn't take it. Lawford's a ghost. He's paying attention. He'd like to avoid unnecessary escalations. Like what? Having his hired goon break into my property again? The man's smile didn't change. You've made quite the stir, Logan. Ruth Evans was never meant to be a headline. And the girl, she was supposed to be reassigned. Quietly. You've complicated things. That's the point. Mr. Lawford is willing to offer a compromise. I'm not. Think carefully. You still have a business empire. Investments. Boards. Reputation. Logan stepped out then, closing the gap between them. His voice dropped. You threaten my reputation again. I'll ruin yours in the press. You threaten that little girl inside. The man held up a hand. No threats, Mr. Pierce, just options. For now, he placed the envelope on the brick step, turned, and walked back to the car. Logan didn't pick it up. He waited until the vehicle vanished into the trees, then called Delgado. We just got a visit, he said. Lawford's people. I'll send a unit, she replied. Don't open anything. That envelope might be more than paper. I figured. After the police collected it, X-rayed it, cleared it, they opened the envelope in Logan's presence. Inside was a single page, typed, "Clinical. Withdraw your claims. Sign a non-disclosure. Custody of the child will be reassigned to an approved foster institution with full state funding. In return, your companies remain untouched. No lawsuits. No investigations. No press leaks. Below that, a second option. Refuse and face full reputational audit, tax exposure, and civil liability from multiple state agencies. The child's status will be rescinded and redirected through federal placement protocols. This is not personal. It's procedural." Logan stared at the letter in silence. Delgado crumpled it in her gloved hand. "They've crossed into open threat territory now." He nodded. "Let's take them there." By afternoon, Logan had called a press conference. Not behind a podium or a velvet rope, he stood on the steps of a youth center in New Haven, coat buttoned tight, Anna's photo pinned to his lapel. "I am not here today as a CEO," he began. "Or a donor. Or a name in headlines." He looked into the cameras. "I'm here as the man who opened his door and found a 6-year-old girl freezing on his porch. I'm here as the man who read a note from a dying woman who said, 'Protect her.' And I'm here as someone who learned too late what silence costs." He held up the letter from Lawford's group. "This is what they sent me. A list of threats, offers, promises of peace if I abandon the child who trusted me." He tore it in half. "They called it not personal. But when a child's life is treated as a negotiation, everything becomes personal." The crowd behind the cameras stirred. Some clapped, others wiped away tears. Back at the estate, Anna watched the live feed with Beverly and one of the housekeepers. She was quiet at first, then whispered, "He did it." That night, Logan returned to find the front porch covered in cards. Handwritten letters. Drawings from children. One read, "I don't know Anna, but I think she is brave." He smiled. Not all storms came with thunder. Some came with letters and crayons. Still, he didn't let his guard down. That night, the watchman spotted another vehicle. This one didn't approach, but circled once and vanished. Delgado increased patrols, but Logan knew what was coming. Power never surrendered willingly, and Lawford had just begun to fight dirty. But this time, Logan wasn't alone. He had the truth. He had the press. He had Anna. And in the deepest part of him, the old part that once fought to build empires, he had rage. The kind you could build a movement on. The next morning, Logan stood at the edge of the property, watching frost melt on the iron gates. His breath ghosted in the air. His phone buzzed a text from Beverly. Just 2 words. "He's speaking." Logan tapped the link and watched as Richard Lawford appeared on a live interview, well-dressed, backlit in an elegant office, the skyline behind him a painting of power. "We categorically deny the accusations," Lawford said smoothly. Mr. Pierce's actions appear driven by emotional instability. He's a man grieving, perhaps projecting. We empathize, but we will defend our integrity." Logan scoffed. He recognized the voice, the calm cadence designed to deflect guilt. It was the same tone Lawford had used years ago when denying shady data collection contracts. Logan had walked away from the company back then. Lawford hadn't. He shut the phone off and walked back inside. Anna was curled on the couch, sketching. This time, not maps but faces. A line of children, each with a name scrawled underneath. "These are my friends," she said. "From the shelter. Some were nice. Some cried all the time." He sat beside her. "You remember all their names?" She nodded. "They don't want to be forgotten." His throat tightened. "They won't be." That afternoon, Logan and Beverly met Delgado in a downtown office borrowed from a nonprofit. Delgado looked more exhausted than usual, her badge clipped askew, coffee half finished. She dropped a thick file on the table. Tilden resurfaced. Logan leaned forward. "Where?" "Dallas. Tried to use a fake identity to board a private plane. TSA flagged him. He bolted. We lost him again, probably being protected." "So what now?" "We got a warrant for Lawford's financials. If we trace a direct payment from him to Tilden, We've got enough to escalate. The DA's interested. But we need a smoking gun. Logan looked at the stack of files. We find it. Delgado nodded. And soon. He's got connections, Logan. Political ones. If this case stalls too long, they'll bury it under red tape. On the drive home, Beverly turned to him. You know what would shake the system? What? Putting Anna in front of a camera. He bristled. Number, she's a child, not a headline. She wouldn't have to say much. Just a short clip, her voice, her name, her truth. It would break through the noise, show them this isn't just politics. He gripped the steering wheel. Not yet. That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He stood in his home office, staring at the wall. Photographs, documents, testimony. He could see it all clearly now, not just the system, but the rot within it. A network of influence, profit, and indifference. He thought of Ruth, how alone she must have felt, screaming into a void that refused to listen. And then he thought of Anna, how close she had come to vanishing. He opened his laptop and began writing again, not a speech this time, but a declaration. A document he'd release if anything happened to him, not just about Lawford or Tilden, but every name, every agency, every silent accomplice. It would burn bridges. Good. The next morning, he took Anna to the woods behind the estate. A tall oak stood at the edge of the clearing, strong despite the snow. He brought a hammer, nails, and 2 thick wooden planks. What's this? She asked. Our treehouse, he said. It starts here. She smiled. Just the floor? For now. But even castles start with a stone. Huh. They worked together, laughing as they slipped on icy patches, arguing over design. When the first plank was nailed in, she wrote her name on it with a marker, Anna P. He raised an eyebrow. P? For Pierce, she said. If that's okay. His voice caught. It's perfect. As they packed up, she looked at him seriously. If he comes back, the man in the coat, do I hide again? No, Logan said. You stand beside me. That night, Beverly sent an encrypted file from one of Carla's sources, she said. Deep internal memo from a foster agency tied to Lawford's funding stream. Logan opened it. It detailed placement quotas, weekly targets. Bonuses paid out for each child processed through their partnership shelters. One line chilled him. High-risk removals are prioritized when public attention is low. He read it twice, then again. They had turned children into statistics. That was the smoking gun. He forwarded it to Delgado. 5 minutes later, she called, voice shaking. We've got him. Lawford? Better. The official who signed off on those quotas. He's flipping. Testifying. Logan exhaled. But in the pit of his stomach, he knew this war wasn't over. It was just entering its final act. And final acts were always the bloodiest. The next morning, the sun rose over Connecticut like it had nothing to hide. The air was sharp but clean, the sky brushed with silver blue, and for a moment, the world looked honest. Logan didn't trust it. He stood by the window of his study, watching Anna play in the snow with the housekeeper's dog. She was laughing, bundled in layers, her joy blooming like something brand new. But the image didn't soothe him, it made him ache. He knew the cost of that laughter. Knew how close it had come to being stolen. His phone buzzed. Delgado. They moved Lawford, she said without preamble. Federal holding, secure location. He hasn't spoken yet. But his people know the walls are closing in. Logan didn't look away from the window. What about Tilden? We think he's circling back. We found a burner phone ping near Hartford last night. No known destination, but we're tracking him. You think he'll come here? A pause. I think he's the kind of man who needs to end what he starts. Logan clenched his jaw. Let him come. Later that day, Beverly arrived with Carla in tow. The journalist had her recorder in one hand and a sharp glint in her eyes. Let's finish it, she said. On the record. You, the girl, the evidence. We package it as a special feature, syndicate it nationwide. Truth louder than spin. Logan hesitated. She's been through enough. She wants to speak, Beverly said softly. She told me. They set up the cameras in the den, where the light poured in warmly. Anna sat on the couch, her small hands folded in her lap. Carla knelt beside her, voice gentle. You don't have to say anything you don't want. Just speak from your heart. Anna nodded. When the red light blinked on, she looked straight into the lens. My name is Anna, she said clearly. I lived with a lady named Ruth. She took care of me when nobody else would. We had oatmeal every morning, even when it was cold. She made me feel safe. But then someone came to take me. They said I didn't belong. She paused, glanced at Logan behind the camera. He nodded. I ran away. And I found him, she said, pointing. Mr. Logan. He didn't ask why I was in the snow. He just brought me in. And now I have a bed. And food. And I'm not scared at night. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Please don't take me away again. Carla blinked rapidly, clearing her throat. That's more than enough. Logan took her hand as she stepped down. You were brave. Ugh. I don't want to be brave anymore, she whispered. I want to be normal. That evening, the footage went live. It swept across platforms like a tidal wave, viewed, shared, reposted. Politicians issued statements. Activists held candlelight vigils. Donations poured into child advocacy centers. And for the first time in weeks, Logan let himself believe they were winning. Until the lights cut out. It happened just past midnight. Total blackout. The estate went dark. Generators stuttering. Logan jumped from bed, heart pounding, and grabbed the firearm from the bedside drawer. He'd trained enough to stay calm. But this was different. This was personal. He raced to Anna's room. She was already awake, clutching her stuffed bear, wide-eyed. Is it him? She whispered. Maybe, Logan said. Stay quiet. Go into the closet. Lock the inside latch like I showed you. She nodded and moved quickly. Logan crept down the hallway, the only light coming from the emergency backup panel flickering near the stairs. Every window had become a mirror of the night. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate. From the kitchen, he moved silently, heart pounding, holding his breath as he rounded the corner. A shadow moved near the back door. Tilden, Logan said coldly. The figure froze, then stepped forward. It was him, older now, face hardened by years in the shadows. He held no weapon, just that same terrifying calm he'd used to terrify others. You made this very messy, Logan, he said. You broke into my house. Logan replied. You took something that wasn't yours. She's a child, not property. Tilden tilted his head. The system disagrees. That system is dying. Systems don't die. They evolve. They wait. Logan stepped closer, gun lowered but ready. Why are you here? Last offer, Tilden said. Walk away, give her up, and no one gets hurt. She's not going anywhere. Tilden sighed. Then I guess we do this the hard way. He moved too fast, too smooth, a blur of motion. But Logan was ready. The shot rang out, deafening. Tilden staggered back, clutching his shoulder. Logan didn't fire again. It called Delgado. I've got him, he said, bleeding, alive. Come quick. Anna emerged slowly, once the sirens were close. She looked at the man on the floor. That's the one, she whispered. He came before. Zun. Logan knelt beside her. He won't come again. The police hauled Tilden away, cuffed and bleeding. His mask finally broken, and for the first time, the darkness lifted. Not just from the estate, but from everything. From the silence. From the fear, because Anna had spoken, because Logan had stood, because evil, when dragged into the light, no longer looked so untouchable. It just looked small, and tired, and done. The morning after Tilden's arrest, the estate was unusually still. Snow had dusted the trees like powdered sugar, covering the remnants of the night's chaos, the shattered doorframe, the torn-up garden bed where officers had tackled him. But inside, it felt like something had settled. Something old, heavy, and toxic had finally been exhaled. Logan sat in the kitchen, staring into his coffee, barely touched. Across from him, Anna ate a bowl of oatmeal, her legs swinging from the stool, bare feet in fuzzy socks. For the first time in days, she seemed calm. Is he gone forever? she asked. Logan looked up. He's in custody. For now, Anna frowned. But will he stay gone? That's what we're fighting for. She nodded slowly, processing, then changed the subject. Can we finish the treehouse today? Logan smiled. Yeah, we'll build it strong. Just like you. Later that morning, Delgado called. Her voice was brisk, focused. Lawford's gone quiet, completely off-grid since Tilden's arrest. But get this, Tilden gave us something. Logan sat up straighter. A confession? No, better, documents. He had them stashed in a safe house in Vermont. Notes, bank statements, video recordings. Enough to implicate Lawford directly in the child relocation scheme. Logan's heart pounded. You can bring charge? Federal task force is moving. We're coordinating with 3 states. This is going to hit headlines by evening. As the call ended, Logan stepped outside into the cold, the crunch of snow underfoot grounding him. He stared at the treehouse they'd started 2 planks, a ladder, and a rough frame. A work in progress. Like everything else in his life now, he spent the afternoon hammering nails, sawing wood, letting the physical labor scrub away the noise in his mind. Anna helped where she could, handing him tools, humming to herself, even drawing little symbols on the beams, hearts, stars, initials. It was almost finished when Beverly arrived with a stack of newspapers and a look that said, "You need to see this." The front page read, "Billionaire whistleblower brings down elite child relocation ring." Underneath was a photo of Logan, taken at the vigil the night before. Beside it, Anna, face partially blurred, standing with a candle in her mittened hand. "They're calling you the accidental advocate," Beverly said. "The system's worst enemy." I didn't want to be a symbol," Logan muttered. "Well, tough. You are." Inside, she pulled out her laptop and played a clip from a political debate aired the previous night. One of the candidates, a senator from New York, pointed directly into the camera and said, "If we're not protecting children, we're not a government." Logan Pierce showed us how far we've fallen. The audience erupted in applause. "You lit a fuse," Beverly said. "Now it's burning through Washington." By evening, Carla called. Her voice was electric. "Lawford's inner circle is scattering. 3 of his corporate partners have flipped. The DOJ is naming him in a full RICO investigation." "You pushed the boulder over the cliff, Logan." Logan didn't feel triumphant. He felt tired. Not defeated. Just worn, like a man who had finished digging someone else out of a grave and was only now realizing how deep it had been. That night, he and Anna sat in the treehouse for the first time. She had brought a flashlight, 2 blankets, and a tiny notebook. She opened it and showed him a list of names. "These are the other kids," she said. "From Ruth's place. From the other houses. I don't want to forget." Logan took the notebook gently. "You won't." She leaned on his shoulder. "Do you think they'll be safe now?" "I think they'll have a better chance." They sat in silence, the stars above like shattered glass on black velvet. Below them, the world kept spinning: press, politics, prosecutors. But up in that wooden box, wrapped in wool and truth, there was stillness, peace. As Logan tucked her into bed that night, she said, "You didn't let me disappear." "Never," he said. "Not even for a second." She smiled. "You think Ruth can see us?" He looked toward the window, where a single star pulsed brighter than the rest. "I think she never stopped watching." In the days that followed, more arrests came, more stories emerged. Other children stepped forward, now grown, now ready to speak. The system reeled, restructured, new oversight, new funding, new hope, and through it all, Logan stayed with Anna. She went back to school, slowly, cautiously. The principal was kind. The other kids curious. But she held herself steady, because she had a name now, a voice, and a home that wouldn't vanish when things got hard. Logan finally returned to work, not to reclaim wealth or power, but to launch a foundation. One dedicated to child advocacy, legal protection, trauma recovery. He named it after Ruth. The plaque read, "Ruth's Light." No child left in the shadows. It wasn't just a promise. It was the beginning of a vow, one they would never break. 2 weeks after the collapse of Lawford's empire, the courtroom in Hartford brimmed with quiet anticipation. A sea of pressed suits and solemn faces filled the wooden benches, while cameras and sketch artists lined the back. The room was heavy with the scent of old varnish, coffee, and the raw tension of something long overdue. Logan sat near the front with Beverly and Delgado on either side. He wore a simple charcoal suit, no tie, no lapel pin, just a quiet defiance. Anna wasn't with him. She was at school, her teacher promising a day of normalcy with paint and story time. But she'd drawn a tiny picture that morning of a treehouse and a sunrise and handed it to him before he left. For luck, she'd whispered. Now, that folded scrap sat in Logan's breast pocket, close to his heart. The doors opened, and Richard Lawford was escorted in. Shackled, pale, but somehow still managing a smirk. He scanned the courtroom like a man counting assets. Logan didn't look away. When the judge entered, everyone rose. The gavel struck once, sharp, decisive. This court is now in session. What followed was a procession of legal formalities, indictments read aloud, witness lists reviewed, procedural objections. But it was all theater. The real moment, the one everyone had come for, came hours later, when the prosecution called their surprise witness, a former agency director, gray-haired, nervous, hands trembling slightly as he took the stand. But when he spoke, his voice was clear. For years, he began, we were given incentives to clear case backlogs. That meant faster placements, fewer questions, less oversight. The goal wasn't always what was best for the child. It was efficiency, profit, quotas. Gasps rippled through the gallery. And Mr. Lawford? The man's voice dropped. He provided funding through his charities. We were told to prioritize his interests. We didn't ask where the money came from. We didn't want to know. Beverly scribbled notes furiously. Delgado leaned in. That's the nail, she whispered. This isn't just corruption. It's conspiracy. When court recessed, Logan stepped into the hallway. Reporters rushed him, cameras blinking, mics extended. He paused, only long enough to say one thing. This was never about revenge. It's about accountability. He turned and walked away. Outside, the world felt different. Not lighter. Just more honest. Like a layer had been peeled back and beneath it was something rough, but real. That evening, he returned to the estate just as Anna's school bus pulled up. She came running, her backpack bouncing, cheeks red from the cold. How was it? She asked. He knelt. We're closer, much closer. She smiled, then pulled something from her bag, a gold star sticker. For doing good. He laughed and let her stick it on his coat. That night, over dinner, the doorbell rang. Unusual, unexpected. Logan opened it to find a young woman, maybe 24, holding a small suitcase. Her eyes were tired, but purposeful. My name's Lacey, she said. I was in Ruth's house. Years ago. Logan stepped aside. Come in. She told them her story over tea, how she'd aged out of the system, spent years in limbo, and finally saw the video Anna had recorded. I didn't think anyone remembered us, she said, tears in her voice. But she remembered me. My name was on her list. Anna, sitting nearby, beamed. They gave Lacey a room for the night. By morning, there were 3 more emails in Logan's inbox. Other kids, other names, survivors who had never been believed. Some wanted to tell their story. Others just wanted to know they weren't alone. The treehouse became a symbol, a place of gathering. On weekends, Logan and Anna hosted children, some still in shelters, some now grown. They painted signs, shared meals, told stories. They cried, they laughed, and they built something new. Logan didn't speak much at those gatherings. He just listened, because the truth was finally speaking for itself. At the next court date, Lawford pled guilty on several charges. Not because he had changed, but because the evidence was overwhelming. And the alternative was worse. He never looked at Logan once. Outside the courthouse, a woman from the press asked, "Do you feel like justice has been served?" Logan looked past her to the group of children gathered behind, holding signs with names like Ruth's Light, We Are Not Forgotten, And no more shadows. He said, "Justice isn't a verdict. It's a promise. And we've only just begun to keep it." That night, Anna sat on his lap, watching old cartoons. "You think we'll ever stop fighting?" she asked. Logan wrapped his arms around her. "No," he said. "But now we're not fighting alone." In the weeks following Lawford's guilty plea, the country seemed to hold its breath. News networks shifted focus to recovery efforts, politicians unveiling new protections for foster youth, agencies being audited, and former directors scrambling to distance themselves from the scandal. What had once been whispered in hallways was now being shouted on Capitol Hill, but for Logan, the noise of the world was nothing compared to the quiet resolve growing in his own home. On a cold Friday morning, he and Anna stood at the treehouse again. The final panel was being installed, a simple wooden door, painted with stars. Anna held the brush, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth as she added a shooting comet to the corner. "For Ruth," she said. "She liked stars." Logan nodded. "She said stars remind us that light's always been there, even when it's far away." Anna stepped back, admiring her work. "You think she's proud?" "I think she never stopped being proud," Logan said. Inside the house, the phone rang. Beverly answered, then called out through the window. "It's the mayor's office. They want to meet. About your foundation." Logan exhaled and wiped his hands on a rag. "Tell them we'll talk Monday. This weekend is for us." That evening, he lit a small fire in the backyard pit. Anna sat wrapped in a blanket beside him, sipping hot cocoa. Lacey, the former foster youth who had arrived weeks ago, now stayed in the guest house while preparing for college. She joined them, sharing stories about Ruth, how she used to hum old soul songs when she cooked, how she'd write affirmations on slips of paper and tuck them into the kids' shoes. "She believed we'd need hope in the smallest places," Lacey said, smiling softly. Delgado visited, off-duty for once. She brought a lasagna, dropped her badge in her coat pocket, and even laughed at one of Anna's jokes. Logan noticed the tired lines around her eyes had softened. "We're not done," she said, sipping wine, "but we're getting closer. The DOJ's building a long-term task force. You're part of the reason. I didn't do it alone." "No," she agreed, "but you started the avalanche." Just past midnight, while the house slept, Logan sat in his study and opened a letter that had arrived earlier that day. It was handwritten. No return address. "Mr. Pierce, I watched what you did, what you risked. Years ago, I was a part of it. The system. I knew what we were doing. I knew the shortcuts, the neglect. I didn't stop it, but because of you, I've decided to speak. I've contacted the press. I've told them everything I know. You reminded me that silence makes us guilty. Thank you for being louder than I ever was." Logan stared at the letter for a long time, then folded it and placed it beside Ruth's photo on the mantel. The next day, Carla arrived with a camera crew not to film another expose, but to document the first gathering of what Logan had begun calling the Forgotten Voices. Dozens of children, now grown, stood under the wide branches of the treehouse. Some gave speeches. Others simply stood in silence, but each held a photo of themselves, of Ruth, of those lost along the way. Anna stepped up, holding a microphone nearly as tall as she was. Her voice trembled at first, but steadied as she spoke. "I used to think I was invisible, but now I know I'm not. And I'm going to keep talking, so nobody else has to feel that way." The crowd applauded. Logan wiped at his eyes discreetly. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lacey approached him. "You know they're going to want more from you, right? Media, Congress, maybe even a book deal." "I'm not interested in being famous," Logan replied. "Good," she said, handing him a notepad, "because I think the kids should tell the story. All of us, in our words." He looked down. On the top of the notepad, she'd written, "The light they tried to hide." He nodded. "Let's make it real." That night, the house was quiet. Not the eerie kind of quiet that came with fear, but the restful kind, the kind earned after long battles. As Logan tucked Anna in, she reached out and held his hand. "Do you think bad people will always come back?" "Yes," he said truthfully. but so will good people. And next time, you'll have a whole army behind you." She smiled. "Even you?" "Especially me." Downstairs, he lit one last candle in front of Ruth's portrait. "You didn't just save her," he whispered. "You saved me." And as the flame danced, soft and steady, he knew the final chapter wasn't about victory, it was about vigilance. It wasn't about headlines, it was about holding space for the forgotten, the unheard, the almost lost. And in that space, something unshakable had taken root. A promise, a legacy, and a little girl's voice, echoing through a nation. Spring came slowly that year, peeling back the frost in layers as if the earth, like the people on it, needed time to thaw. Logan stood at the edge of the property in the early morning light, hands in his coat pockets, watching dew gather on the grass. The treehouse, now fully painted and decorated, stood like a sentinel among the budding trees covered in handprints, quotes, names of children who once had none. Inside the house, Anna prepared for her first public speaking event. It was a modest gathering, an education symposium on child advocacy at a nearby university, but for her, it was the Super Bowl. Beverly adjusted the collar of her dress shirt while Lacey brushed her hair gently. "You don't have to be perfect," Lacey whispered. "Just be honest." Anna looked in the mirror. "I think Ruth would want me to be both." Logan met them downstairs, car keys in hand. "You ready, superstar?" She nodded, holding the small note card she'd written her speech on, though she'd already memorized it. "Will you sit in the front row?" "I wouldn't be anywhere else." At the university auditorium, rows of folding chairs were set in tidy lines. Professors, students, nonprofit leaders, and a few foster care advocates filled the seats. The air buzzed with anticipation, but not for policy or statistics. People had come to hear from Anna because somewhere along the way, her voice had become a symbol for every child who had once whispered and gone unheard. When she stepped on stage, the room hushed. She adjusted the mic, cleared her throat, and spoke. "My name is Anna. I'm 6 years old, and I used to be invisible." She let the words hang there for a moment. Not because I was small or quiet, but because the people who were supposed to see me didn't. They saw numbers, files, quotas. They didn't see my favorite cereal, or how I liked to draw maps, or that I cried when the lights went out. Logan's chest tightened. "But someone did see me," she continued. "Ruth. She made me oatmeal and told me I mattered. And when she was gone, I ran. I found someone else who saw me. And now, I see other kids. I remember their names. I speak for them when they can't." She looked down briefly, then back up. "I don't want to be famous. I want to be safe. I want all of us to be safe." The applause started slowly, then grew into a standing ovation. Logan wiped at his eyes as Beverly clapped beside him. Delgado, seated across the aisle, nodded solemnly, and Carla filmed every word, her camera hand steady but her lip trembling. Afterward, professors approached Anna with admiration, students asked for photos, and a state senator requested a meeting with Logan. But amidst the noise and praise, Anna stayed grounded. She held Logan's hand and whispered, "Can we go home now?" They did. That evening, Logan built a fire in the backyard pit again, though the air was warmer now. Birds chirped in the distance, and the scent of lilacs rode the breeze. Anna toasted marshmallows with Lacey, while Carla and Delgado shared a bottle of wine, discussing the new federal guidelines being proposed in response to the investigation. "None of this would have happened without you," Delgado told Logan. He shook his head. "It happened because the system forgot how to care. We just reminded it." Beverly arrived late, holding a sealed envelope. "It's from Washington," she said. "White House seal." Logan opened it slowly, reading silently. Then he passed it to Beverly. "They want me to testify before Congress. Special hearing, Children's Welfare Reform Committee. Will you go?" Logan looked at Anna, chasing fireflies with a paper jar in her hands. "Yes," he said, "but I won't go alone." The trip to Washington happened a week later. Anna wore a simple blue dress and carried a stuffed bear in her backpack. The same one she'd held the night Logan found her in the snow. Logan wore his usual charcoal suit, no tie. In the chamber, Rows of lawmakers sat behind long desks. Reporters filled the gallery, lights, cameras, microphones everywhere. When Logan was called to speak, he rose and approached the podium slowly. "My name is Logan Pierce. I am not a politician. I'm not an expert in child psychology. I am a man who opened his front door and found the failure of our system standing in the snow, shivering and 6 years old. No." He told them everything about Ruth, about the scheme, about Lawford and Tilden, and about the night Anna nearly disappeared again. "This isn't just about fixing laws. It's about restoring dignity to children. Seeing them, hearing them, protecting them before it's too late." When he finished, there was silence, not from apathy, but reverence. Then, without prompting, Anna walked to his side and took the mic. "I want to go to school," she said. "I want to build more tree houses. I want no kid to ever feel like they're a problem." She paused. "Please don't forget us again." The hearing ended. Reform discussions began the same week. Funding was increased. Background checks tightened. Whistleblower protections expanded. And most importantly, accountability became law, not just promise. Back in Connecticut, the treehouse gained a new nameplate, Ruth's Lookout. Beneath it, dozens of children signed their names, some messy, some hesitant, all brave. Anna added one last name, one that had taken her a long time to claim. Anna Pierce. Logan watched her, heart full. "You did it," he said. She looked up. "We did it." As dusk settled and fireflies returned to dance above the yard, Logan finally understood something Ruth had once whispered to him during a cold, rainy funeral. Justice isn't loud. It's steady. And now, as laughter rose around him, and tiny hands clung to new hope, Logan knew the house he'd built both in wood and in love was one that would never fall again. The story of Logan and Anna teaches us that true justice often begins not in courtrooms, but in quiet acts of courage. It reminds us that every child deserves to be seen, heard, and protected, and that indifference is the greatest danger of all. By standing up against corruption and choosing compassion over comfort, we learn that healing a broken system starts with listening to the voices it once ignored. Ultimately, it is love, not power, that builds the strongest legacy.